Welcome to Culture Cafe. Well, today we have two very good guests with us. One is Matt from JaYoe Nation, like the YouTube channel, right?
Yep.
And then is Alex, who runs the Alex Absolute channel on YouTube also. So it's our pleasure to have them here and share with us their stories. And currently they are traveling around Chongqing. Yeah. So very nice to have you here, really. So how do you guys feel? How is accommodation and everything feel these days in downtown?
The accommodation here is fantastic. They're very polite. It's very comfortable. It's just very nice. Everything here feels super great. As soon as you walk in the door, it's pretty fantastic.
We've stayed in a variety of places, from the countryside to the urban center, and even in Fangjie we stayed in a smaller hotel, and then you have a hotel like this with probably the most fantastic view you could ever have of the city. And I mean, even right now as we speak, if you could see beyond these cameras, you would see a spectacular view of the city. It's really awe-inspiring. The situation of the high-class treatment in Chongqing is really 5-star, so it's been really nice.
The view from the hotel rooms is so good that I've literally rolled up the blinds and I have my tripod out, and I've just been moving it from one window to the next.
Yeah, we're just doing time lapses, time lapse after time lapse.
I shot some long exposure night photography last night of the cars all going along the roads. It's really awesome.
Nice to hear that you have like the good experience with accommodation in this Racing Brew Hotel.
Oh yeah,
Radisson is great.
Radisson is fantastic.
Great. Back to topic, like the how can you tell us more about your channel?
Okay, so I'll go first, I guess. My channel is just I guess I've been I've learned filmmaking and everything all by myself. So if you go back to my earlier stuff, it's kind of a bit all over the place, and I've kind of become more and more focused, and my channel is basically China through my eyes, and a lot of things that I experience, because it's fun to share your experiences. You could have 100 people in the same city and they would all have a different view of how that city is. So I just like to show, it's kind of cliche, but I like to be able to share my experiences with the people back home. But also I like just making videos for myself. I like documenting my life and just showing things that I never make videos to fit what I think other people want to watch. I just make videos of things that I like doing. Sometimes other people might like them. Sometimes
I watch some of your episodes, so like it's like kind of like a way of diary, right? Like record like your daily life, and interesting, get some topic out of it.
I'm trying to change over gradually to being more sort of. I do a lot of daily vlogging, but like a lot of walk and talk vlogs, because they're a way to express yourself. But I also have a big passion for kind of highly edited sort of travel films, kind of like, if you know of them, Sam Calder, Ben TK. So I'm trying to find the time to kind of add this in. I don't want to get rid of the vlogging. I just want to have a mixture of both kind of entities. One is like showing, hey, look at all this beautiful kind of stuff, and one is kind of talking about like, hey, this is how I find China, and showing people like the real China, because it's a bit different living in China to actually, seeing China from afar. It's quite contrast.
And Matt,
I moved to China about 10 years ago. 我有一个贸易公司, so I had a trading company. And I thought that the most important thing in life was to have money, and that money could pay for the things you want to do. But being in China, traveling from China, seeing Southeast Asia, it inspired me to close down my company and instead start traveling around the world. So I filled out a bucket list, and I wrote down all the most important things I'd ever want to accomplish with my life. First one was climb Mount Everest. I climbed Mount Everest in 2016, and I started a YouTube channel telling stories of my travels. So, I mean, even before Everest, I had to climb mountains for training. So I climbed Habashan and Yujifang and Mushtaga out in Xinjiang. And the stories I would prepare in my videos would help other people learn about the world. So I bought a three-wheeled recumbent trike. It's a bicycle, and not a bicycle, it's a tricycle. And I'm cycling around the world. My objective is to cycle from China all the way back to the United States over the course of the next 15 to 20 years, and then eventually reach America with all the stories of my travels. The virus situation we find ourselves in now stopped my tour in Kuala Lumpur, so I returned to China, and so now I'm back telling stories of my life here.
Like, so you will continue that kind of like plan, right? Long-term plan in the
Yes.
following like 10 of
Yeah, as soon as, right now, China is probably one of the safest places in the world to be. And so as soon as the world starts to settle down and everybody starts working out, then I'll return to the road and start cycling around again.
But when you do that cycling, and do you like do videos to tell the audience what happened?
Basically, every single day, I cycle from A to B, and then I tell a story of A to B. And then the next day I ride from B to C, and I tell the story B to C. And you know, I've ridden already through Zhengguo, Hangguo, Urban. I rode around the island of Taiwan, back to the mainland, all the way down into Vietnam, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, and now Thailand and Malaysia. And then from here I would go to Australia, and then Australia all the way to the United States. It's a long, long 100-country journey. So
That's cool. I mean, I can expect plenty rich content to, you know,
Plenty.
release. on your-
It makes me jealous. Just watching.
you can
from-
do it. You can do it. Come with me.
Could you tell us more about the name, your YouTube name, you know, like JaYoe Nation and Alex Absolute? I would like very interested to know, you know, like what does it, how did you come for that name?
When I moved to China, one of the first things I heard was somebody say JaYoe, you know.
Often heard that.
Yeah, you know, it's and I was like, what does that mean? And when I thought about the meaning, you know, add fuel, you couldn't really think of a simpler way to say such a meaningful thing. In America, the Marines have like hoorah, which is like, you know, give it your all, do your best. But it was kind of a military term. But JaYoe can be used for anything, you know, get a job, JaYoe, run a race, JaYoe, you know, take the test, JaYoe. It's so many different things. And so, yeah, and so when I travel around the world, I am, like I say, adding fuel to my life by doing the things I love, video and travel. You can add fuel to your life the way you want to. So it's a great way to kind of say it and spread a really beautiful Chinese term to the world. And I've kind of changed the spelling of it so that it's a little bit more Americanized. Because pinyin, it would be JaYoe. If you were to talk to an American, they'd say JaYoe. But I like that O, you know, JaYoe, you know. So JaYoe is kind of like my interpretation of JaYoe.
I see. It's like also easier for like.
I would think a
Americans or,
foreigner
like,
could probably
English-speaking
pronounce that a
countries
little bit better.
pronounce.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Nice to hear that. To know that it's very positive word.
it's a great word.
Yeah. Alex, like.
And for mine, from like an inspiring story, we're going downhill now because mine is literally going back maybe 10 or 15 years. I used to produce dance music. I used to DJ, and I started off DJing, and then I went on to producing music. I got signed to a label which is a subsidiary of Sony MGM, so it was a kind of big deal. And the first time I ever got to be put on a flyer for a nightclub for a big event, they'd said, "What name? What's your DJ name? What do you want on the flyer?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm not really prepared for this. What do I do? What do I do?" And we were drinking Absolute vodka, and I was like, "Kabam! There we go, Absolute. That's the one." Later on, it turned out there was another DJ who had a similar name, and so I added Alex to the front of it, and then it just kind of, my social media just all became Alex Absolute. So when I first started YouTube, I set up another account, something like China Expat. And then I thought about it, and I thought to myself, I don't want to limit myself to what happens if because I didn't know if I was going to be staying in China forever. This was like right at the beginning of my China time. So I was like, I don't want to be tied to a particular country. If I have a name that's not tied to there, it won't matter where I am. Like it will still be a relevant name. So I changed my channel. I set up a new channel and just went for Alex Absolute. I mean, you could tie it in however you want. But yeah, it was just basically kind of convenience and just kind of grew out of
Unique
other
also,
things.
you know, like Alex Absolute. I said this won't be his surname for sure.
No. If you, although sometimes just for fun, I tell people it is.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But it's quite interesting to get to know, really, to hear about like how do you feel about being a YouTuber, you know, like in China, let's say to be mostly in China, yeah.
Well, it's the dumbest thing ever, right?
I think for me, being a YouTuber in China is easier than being a YouTuber in England, because when you first start making vlogs, especially walking around in the streets and kind of, you know, like talking, and people are like, oh look, this guy's got a camera, and like he's talking into the camera and doing something. If you were in England, if I was in England, people would be able to understand what I was saying, so it would be even more nerve-wracking. When you're vlogging in China, you have like a safety net of they know you're talking, but they don't know, like not everybody will know what you're talking about, so it makes you feel there's being way out of your comfort zone, and then there's like a mid-step, which is here. Now I've got to the point where like this is how China's changed me. When I first came here, I've never been shy, ever. I'm quite loud and outspoken, but I was never too happy about doing certain things like dancing, singing, all these kind of things. Those were like, whoa, no, for me. And since like, you know, being a teacher or just being in China and doing lots of like public speaking things, I now have almost zero fear about doing any of this, and vlogging and making videos about China is kind of like the last step to just, I wouldn't even call it self-enlightenment, just, I don't know, just it's changed me. Being in China has changed me quite a lot as a person.
What about your audience? Do you think like what your audience like about you, you know, like about the content?
A lot of people say they like how genuine I am. I don't know if that is really me, but yeah, I feel like I'm genuine. Yeah, I think I'm kind of a straight talker. I just say, I don't really have anything to hide, I just kind of say it. But yeah, I think a lot of people like seeing, I have a large audience of a mixture of people. Like half of them are probably foreigners that have either lived in China or do live in China, and half of them are Chinese people. I have a lot of Chinese overseas people. I have even like a bunch of subscribers from Wenzhou, and there's been talk of us meeting up, which would be pretty cool. But yeah, half of them, I guess, are, like a lot of people are interested in how foreigners are living in China, and half of them are people that have either lived in China or do live in China, and kind of like comparing their own experiences or things that we all have like in common, I guess.
I have a travel channel, so my content is easily consumed by anybody. So I find that my audience is varied from the broad political spectrum, cultural spectrum, anywhere people can enjoy somebody traveling around the world. Recently, because of this virus situation and being an American, it's had an interesting effect on my online YouTube community, because there's all sorts of tension in the world right now. So it's been kind of interesting to see my audience evolve over the last 6 months, because I've been telling the story of me coming back to China during this period of time. So it's been an interesting experience, an experiment, to see my audience evolve and change, and their opinions of the content change as well.
Even as another YouTuber, I've seen the opinions and his content like having a big sort of change.
Cool. So like been living in China for a lot of years, right? For years already. Like the things like living in China. Does living in China change you? And if yes, like what are the big change you think?
But like I said, for me, like when I first came here, I wouldn't want to dance or sing, and now this kind of thing, or like, you know, like when you're teaching, like I used to teach at a kindergarten like a few years ago, and they make you go downstairs and you have to dance around like to like children's songs, like what are they, the Korean boy band songs, Yosho, oh, this one, like the TF boys, that's the one. So now if people say, do you want to do that, I'm like, yeah, sure. So I've kind of come out of my shell as far as that is. I've started making films and movies, videos. I've started doing a lot more creative things. My interests have shifted. I used to, before I came here, many years ago, I used to write and produce music. I was signed to a few record labels, like kind of like dance EDM kind of music. and I've completely, my interests have completely shifted from that to being entirely photography and videography based. So my interests have shifted a lot. I've learned Chinese. I've learned the local dialect in the city I come from. I've kind of I've learned to save. It's probably one of the big self-improvements I've made. Is I've learned to save and kind of budget whereas before I've always had plenty of money, but I would be like, ooh, shiny stuff, and I'd just go on like spending sprees. I wasn't very good
You
at.
still buy shiny stuff.
Yeah.
Lenses
I still
and
buy
stuff.
shiny
You buy
stuff,
shiny
but,
stuff. We all buy shiny stuff.
But I can still be sensible at the same time as buying shiny.
Like
stuff.
this idea of saving actually in China is very different. I think.
It's like a core part of the mindset here is to save. It's changed me for the better.
Debt in America is something everybody lives with, you know. But when it comes to China, it's like, debt? Why would you even have that, you know? Get out of that.
Yeah,
You know?
we always live in the West. We always live on the finance kind of related thing where you have it now and you pay it off gradually. Whereas here, everybody saves and saves and saves, and then when they want something, they have the finances available to get it. It's two different perspectives.
I've been in China for 10 years. If the Matt from 10 or 15 years ago sat down and had a conversation with the Matt of today, that would be a hell of an interesting conversation. The Matt from 10 years ago would have to have Mount Everest explained to him, you know, hiking through the largest state cave in the world in Vietnam, a cycle tour around the world, a daughter, a wife. I mean, my entire life has changed being in China. I think that the world would be a much, much better place if every single person in the world could, you know, travel halfway around the world for a considerable amount of time, more than a month, you know, like 6 months, because your perception of the world opens up and you learn about different cultures and different people, but you also learn that people, a lot of them are the same, you know. There's a lot of people that would think that Chinese people and American people are totally different. But there's also a lot of, you know, that you learn when you travel. That
We actually met a guy here on the first night who said basically what Matt's just said, a Chinese man, an old guy. He came up and he said there's a lot of things in the tension between America and China now. He said, but that's a government thing. He said, we're all people, and the actual people of the world, we're all the same.
And if more people could talk to that guy, it'd be a better place. It'd be a better place.
And there's just reduce a lot of stereotypes, right?
Yeah.
Stereotypes come when you don't really know the situation, just guess.
Exactly.
Yeah, you see the misprinting picture or something, you guess.
That you
I would
surmise
totally
from seeing
agree
the
on
news
that.
or other such things, or just, you know, like people make up their own minds about things without, like sometimes a lack of understanding, sometimes just not being there. Sometimes it's not always necessarily malicious things. It's just if you haven't experienced it, you can't explain it.
If come to this point, I just want to hear one thing that you think you don't understand about China before, but now you can. I think there are many things that before maybe you don't understand, but now understand.
So
Is
give
there
me
any
10 minutes.
So which one thing?
One thing that I didn't understand before. I guess I like the savings thing. I never could understand why you'd need to like scrimp and save so hard when you can just finance it all. And after you start doing it and you start living that kind of lifestyle, I understand now why it's better to save. I understand a lot. It's kind of loosely tied into this, but I understand a lot about China and Chinese by learning to write and read Chinese, because of the way characters in China are composed. You have like the sound part and the meaning part, and then you go back to like when it was like the Oracle Bone script, and there's a lot about culture and the way they comprise the characters, which teaches you a lot about China itself. I think having a family in China and having like married into a Chinese family also boosts your understanding of things. There's a lot of understanding of how the balance and how families work here. Like here, like you have like the family's dad JaYoe, like, you know, he's like the oldest, most senior uncle, and he kind of helps and decides and lays out what he guides the family in the right direction.
There's like the family,
the family structure is
here, in China.
very interesting, and that's hard to understand until you have one. and then when you start seeing it in operation, you get the grasp of how it all works, and it's actually pretty good. I think China's very family orientated.
So Matt, what about you?
I was exposed. Now it's not a completely Chinese thing, but it was something that I was exposed to more in China. Was that the definition of happiness is way more than material happiness, like having like an expensive car or a big house or whatnot. I've seen some of the most impoverished situations, in the countryside of China, and they're the most happy people, And it took time. It changed my perception of what happiness was, Somebody farming rice, walking through the fields with a basket on their back, goes home and feeds his family and his kids, and he might be more happy than a bank executive that in America, And so my idea of what equates happiness. As a matter of fact, when I moved to China, I was thinking that money was what I needed in order to buy the things that would make me happy, and it wasn't long living here that I decided that took second chair to living a more experiential life and just going out and enjoying the things that you want to enjoy.
Quite agree on that. It's nice because when you travel around, you see a lot and you see different things, right? Like
China's so varied. There's a lot to see without ever leaving China.
Yeah.
And how about let's talk about something about this trip around Chongqing, right? And Alex, first time here, Matt been here 6 years ago, but it's a long time. Huge changes already happened.
You could almost class it as the first time again, really.
Yeah, really.
So tell me something about your experience here. You are in Fengjie County, right? And then in downtown Chongqing. Tell us some spots that impress you very much. In Vietnam, I explored the Son Doong Cave. It's the largest cave in the world, and I thought that was truly a unique cave. It was the largest in the world. But coming here and going into the what is it called? The Tiankeng. The Tiankeng sinkhole was just as stupendous and in ways more than the cave in some ways. So. Walking down the edge of the sinkhole and then progressing down and seeing the change in landscape and thinking about, when you see a place like that, you think about time, the amount, millions and millions of years it took to form that sinkhole, and it's just awe-inspiring. It's like kind of looking at history, but the long history of the world through these sorts of visits. And so, the first gorge of the Three Gorges Dam, and then the Tiankeng, and these sorts of, what was the valley that we visited? That new, the two cliffs. I mean, this is what really I really enjoy, that sort of thing. So it's been a really great trip with regards to that. Yeah, because this city is when you are in downtown, it's totally different scenery. When you go out, right? There's more to see.
There's so much to see. I feel I could probably live here for a year and still have things I wanted to shoot and things I wanted to go and see and do, because there's literally I had it in my mind when I came here I'd be able to just be like, right, I've got this. I'm going to shoot here. I'm going to shoot here. I'm going to shoot here. I'll do this. I'll do that. But then there was so much, I kind of felt overwhelmed. There was so many things to see, so many places to go. It's been overwhelming in the sense it's been so good that there was so much you didn't know where to look first or what to do first. So I feel I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to review all of the stuff I've shot and all of the vlogs I've done. And there's going to be a lot of surprises. I'm hoping all good, not anything bad, like what happened with the time lapse. But it's been fantastic. I'm definitely coming back. I think I said to other Alex Reportify, when he comes here, because he'll be back here for I guess 6 months or so. I'm almost 100% I'll be back to visit Alex and to see more of the city, because I think we've seen a huge amount of it, but we haven't really scratched the surface, because I think that's the kind of thing that you need to like spend a fair while here to do.
Like say the downtown area, right? Downtown say already will take days to explore, and not mention like the surrounding, like the counties, districts, like many already holds a lot of like the great scenic spot, but it's like there's like 40 and some districts and counties around Chongqing. You know, you can imagine, like if you want to go deeper exploration.
I mean, you can go very deep. As a matter of fact, what was the train station where the trains go into the building? The one over here? Liziba. We walked from the art district on the hill down to Liziba, and we went through a winding, basically like an old abandoned city that was overgrown with vines, and it was really, I could make a video right there
Just about that.
just of that one place. So if you extrapolate that open, I mean, I look out the window right now, there's millions of stories you can tell, and millions of people that
Millions of places you could just look behind here.
Yeah, it's like you got a lot of content already, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I've got. There's a lot of Chongqing content. I'm gonna have to.
Parse through it.
I'm gonna have. People are gonna start thinking I've moved to Chongqing. I think the amount of content I've got to put out.
How's the food? Do you like the food here? Spicy?
I love the food. I love spicy food. In England, there's a lot of culture for eating spicy food. People get, I guess, a misconception of England is that people don't like spicy food. But in actual fact, we love spicy food, but it's very different to here. Like more like curries, like very hot curries, and a lot of Thai food. So I love here, like the hogguo, chan, all of these kind of things is great for me. I love spicy food, and I love the smell.
Great place for people who love spicy, you know.
Yeah, I love this. Even if you don't like spicy food, you can appreciate the smell. If you're out on the streets and you can, you know, when you walk past these shops and they have all the spicy stuff cooking, and you get this lovely kind of just aroma of all the spicy food wafting out on the streets, and it just adds to the atmosphere. It's really like a big part of the atmosphere when you're out on the streets here is the smells from the food shops, and a lot of the sights that match with it.
When I first moved to China, started coming here about 15 years ago, I came here, before I moved here 10 years ago. I didn't come to Sichuan and I didn't come to Chongqing at that time, but the foods I fell in love with were from here. So I went to Guangzhou a lot for the Canton Fair, and then I would go to Ningbo. I lived in Ningbo, and I started enjoying koshuiji and the pumpkin, the sautéed pumpkin with egg on it. You know that dish, the sautéed. I mean, all of these are sort of ubiquitous foods from this area. Hogguo, Haidi Lao is like my favorite restaurant to go to ever. And so, like, knowing that this is the birthplace of some of my favorite Chinese foods is pretty cool.
What do you think the potential for Chongqing, like, be attractive to foreign friends, like a tourist place? How do you think how?
I think there's a lot. There's something for everybody. If you enjoy going out and hiking in the mountains, there's that. If you like sort of more city metropolis, there's that. You can do
culinary,
Yeah, if you like your food, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of beautiful things to see. There's river cruises. There's a wide variety, even in a tight area. You could choose just many. You wouldn't even need. You could stay where we're staying in this hotel, and you could just go around this area. There would be enough things to keep you busy.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even need to go over to the other side of there. Although it's good to mix and match. Like there's a lot of different things in a condensed zone, and then that zone's huge. So the amount of places you can go is insane. There's a lot of places.
Chongqing's got a lot to offer, So you can choose whatever personality type you can satisfy that urge. We're both from the coast in China, so the places we are living in currently are pretty flat. So this place gives you an opportunity to see some more undulating landscapes and spend time. Honestly, just walking around here is an exercise. So, you know, it's like a healthy way to live too. So after you have your big old spicy hot pot, you can kind of walk around the city, work up a sweat, and spend the nightlife here is fantastic, and everything. And even if you just like us want to capture moments and take pictures. I mean, if you look out the window of the Radisson Blu that we're staying at right now, it's just a fantastic view from here. It's
like any kind of YouTuber or content creator's dream. There's a lot of stuff. You'd never run dry of things to shoot and to have fun seeing.
Thank you very much for this. Yeah. Okay. Could you tell us more about the name, your YouTube name? You know, like JaYoe Nation and Alex Absolute. I would like very interested to know. You know, like what does it? How did you come for that name?
When I moved to China, one of the first things I heard was somebody say JaYoe. You know.
I often heard that.
Yeah, you know, it's and I was like, what does that mean? And when I thought about the meaning, you know, add fuel, you couldn't really think of a simpler way to say such a meaningful thing. In America, the Marines have like hoorah, which is like, you know, give it your all, do it your best. But it was kind of a military term. But JaYoe can be used for anything, you know, get a job, JaYoe, run a race, JaYoe, you know, take the test, JaYoe. It's so many different things. And so when I travel around the world, I am, like I say, adding fuel to my life by doing the things I love, video and travel. You can add fuel to your life the way you want to. So it's a great way to kind of say it and spread a really beautiful Chinese term to the world. And I've kind of changed the spelling of it so that it's a little bit more Americanized. Because pinyin, it would be JaYoe. If you were to talk to an American, they'd say JaYoe. But I like that O, you know, JaYoe, you know. So JaYoe is kind of like my interpretation of JaYoe.
I see. It's like also easier for like
I would think a foreigner
like
could probably pronounce that a little bit better. Yeah.
Yes. Nice to hear that. To know that it's very positive word.
Yeah, it's a great word.
Yeah. Alex, like.
And for mine, from like an inspiring story, we're going downhill now because mine is literally going back maybe 10 or 15 years. I used to produce dance music. I used to DJ, and I started off DJing, and then I went on to producing music. I got signed to a label which is a subsidiary of Sony MGM, so it was a kind of big deal. And the first time I ever got to be put on a flyer for a nightclub for a big event, they'd said, "What name? What's your DJ name? What do you want on the flyer?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm not really prepared for this. What do I do? What do I do?" And we were drinking Absolute vodka, and I was like, "Kabam! There we go, Absolute. That's the one." Later on, it turned out there was another DJ who had a similar name, and so I added Alex to the front of it, and then it just kind of, my social media just all became Alex Absolute. So when I first started YouTube, I set up another account, something like China Expat. And then I thought about it, and I thought to myself, I don't want to limit myself to what happens if because I didn't know if I was going to be staying in China forever. This was like right at the beginning of my China time. So I was like, I don't want to be tied to a particular country. If I have a name that's not tied to there, it won't matter where I am. Like it will still be a relevant name. So I changed my channel. I set up a new channel and just went for Alex Absolute. I mean, you could tie it in however you want. But yeah, it was just basically kind of convenience and just kind of grew.
Unique also, you know, like Alex Absolute. I said this won't be his surname for sure.
No. If you, although sometimes just for fun, I tell people it is.
Yeah, good. Thank you.